Why don't you tell us now, Miss Pavlova? That's exactly what happened last night. It was a little after 1 in the morning. It was so late, but I hadn't had time to feed Darka, so I gave her some food. Or I guess she could have written it. I forgot she was Russian. Then, all of a sudden, she scratched me and jumped out of my hands.
I do say that cats become very anxious and nervous in new environments.
How does everyone know about cats but me? It was so fast, she disappeared through the ventilator before I could stop her.
And that is how you acquired the rather nasty wound on the back of your hand, I take it?
Yes. And I had read the, rules on the wall. I knew that I was not allowed Darka with me.
Yes, modern science says that animals can carry infectious diseases. It's a precaution, really.
So I listened and listened, trying to hear if there was some noise in the next cabin. It was very quiet. I was sure if someone was there, he must be sleeping.
So at that point, you thought it safe to try to lure the kitten back again? By dangling the end of the toy through the ventilator and into the adjoining cabin?
Darka always loved this toy, but it didn't work. Nothing worked. I tried using her favorite toy. I tried whistling to her softly, but nothing. She didn't return. The faint whistling sound Kazma wrote about in his diary was Miss Pavlova trying to retrieve a pet.
Cats have a propensity to remain hidden in the shadows when frightened.
Yes, there was nothing else I could do. I just had to wait until she had calmed down. Then... The cat also die? I nearly passed out with shock. I heard her cry out and then... Oh, it was such a dreadful bang!
We saw the travelling case moving earlier. I'm pretty sure the cat was in there.
Oh. Maybe it was swapped out with the snake. And then afterwards, nothing. He was totally silent. Kazuma was...
The appearance of the brown mark on the floor. It seems likely that what you heard was the victim stepping on the glass bell and tripping up. Yes, Hesperia is a large vessel, but even she can pitch and roll violently without warning. If Mr. Asogi was already off balance as a result of the ship lurching when the kitten got under his feet. The combination of unfortunate factors could easily have caused him to fall over. What became of the kitten afterwards?
In the end, I managed to get her to come back through the ventilator.
Yet Darko is nowhere to be seen.
I must have forgotten to lock my case. Now she's disappeared again.
Gracious, that cat is as insufferably restless as I am.
Well, he knows something about himself, at least. When I woke this morning, I heard that a young man in the next cabin to mine had died. I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone what had happened. I was too scared. Scared that they would send me back. Oh, hold on a minute. What about the snake?
You're right. Where is it?
Snake isn't your friend, Miss Pavlova. Then whose is it, and where did it come from? What on earth is such a dangerous creature doing aboard this ship?
Oh, I didn't say? Snake is my friend. His name is Piroshko.
What?
What?
That snake belongs to you?
He escaped from cage when emergency alarm sounded. I was looking for him. I did not expect to find him in here.
How did that snake get into this cabin?
What? I was not permitted on board.
Ha! We are at sea for 1 year! You want to be so long without close friend? Without someone who understands?
Wouldn't you find someone a little more human who understands you better?
But my dear burly fellow, a gargantuan venomous snake. Surely you can appreciate the danger you're putting everyone in. No venom.
Oh, is it a snake?
Piroshko does not have venom.
Okay, not a poisonous snake.
He is harmless, very long but very gentle. He is adorable like Granny. It's venomless. Yes. Now he is hungry, so he's in bad mood. But once I feed him, you will see big smile.
And you feed him what? Milk, I suppose.
Ha! Like they say they milk chickens? Ridiculous. Snakes that drink milk are only in stupid stories. Piroshko eats mouses. Big fat round mouses.
Ah. Oh, so... That's why the mousetrap in the passageway out there is for.
Of course. How else can I catch my friend's favorite food?
Thinks that's top of the food chain, like the look in their eyes right now.
It refuses to drink milk. It can't hear a whistle. It can't climb up a bell cord. And it's not even venomous! It won't cook. It can't get naked. How the deuce did something so inept land a starring role? It's not my fault. I do not make up stories. My Piroshko has nothing to do with this incident.
I feel like he's commenting on the case rather than just snakes. So that's what happened. That's the truth behind my best friend's tragic death. Also, there's no trial?
There's no trial. That's what's weird about this chapter. It's the only one in the whole series that doesn't have one.
Good.
I think we should put the snake on trial. It would be funny.
Miss Pavlova, I understand the difficult situation you found yourself in, and I do sympathize. But please remember this. A young man lost his life. If you're going to attempt to cover up your guilt with lies, then no matter what the circumstances, I cannot forgive you.
But...
You're talking about Miss Mikotoba. What lies? Miss Pavlova just confessed everything. It's just a series of unfortunate events. An accident.
I'm no great detective like Mr. Sholmes. I don't have a gift for knowing the truth. But even I can see that was not the truth. Don't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo?
To be perfectly honest, yes. The discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure of it. I just can't quite put my finger on it.
I confess, I was intending to let your Scotland Yard deal with any outstanding issues on this matter.
Oh,
I'm only present here for a very specific reason. The truth is, you, Mr. Naruhodo, are simply a distraction.
distraction?
I do hope you've not been finding your shackles too uncomfortable.
Not again. When did he do that?
Especially as they're on your wrists as a result of my intervention. I was rather hoping I could resolve matters before we made our next port call.
You were, Mr. Sholmes?
Yes, but I overlooked one important detail. The deceased young man was a very close companion of yours, was he not?
Yes. Kazuma was my closest friend. Been my freedom, even.
In that case, we must follow this to its conclusion. No further distractions. You must uncover the real truth here, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes, whatever that may be. Key to this is the discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure. You can chase that down. Maybe the truth will become clear. Truth about how you really died. How the scene in your cabin really came to be. Right, I'll see what I can do.
Excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo.
So then, shall we begin?
Yes.
What we should ponder first is the victim who lost his life in a cabin that was bolted shut from the inside. Was this truly an unfortunate accident, or was it in fact no accident at all? That is what we must establish in the first instance.
We've already established it, haven't we? The man tripped over the kitten that had climbed into his cabin by the ventilator. Tragic, yes, but still an accident.
Wait! Let's just take a step back. Doesn't make sense if that's really what happened, does it?
I'm going to have to ask you to spell it out for me, I'm afraid.
Yes, it's starting to take shape now. The clear contradiction between the facts and Miss Pavlova's story here. Evidence is right there in Kazuma's cabin. It's undeniable. His death couldn't possibly have been a mere accident.
Really?
You look so nervous.
Let us show our hand, Mr. Naruhodo. Time to present the evidence. The evidence that proves unequivocally that the victim's death was no mere accident.
Wardrobe.
The truth is clearly recorded in this photographic print. There's no way that Mr. Asugi could have left this message on the floor.
That script. It's Russian, isn't it?
Indeed it is. The word written means wardrobe.
I see what you mean. Most people would leave a dying message in their native language, Japanese in this case.
But maybe he was studying Russian. It's a simple language. He could have picked it up very fast. Doesn't seem likely. That's actually not the point. It makes no difference whether he knew Russian or not.
Sorry, what do you mean?
Exactly what I said before. There's no way that Mr. Asugi could have left this message on the floor. The reason why is clearly explained in here. Damage to the cervical vertebrae resulting in instant death. Instant death.
What?
Which means, after the victim fell to the floor, he couldn't possibly have written anything. Because he was already dead. Maybe he was a zombie.
That's not the only reason either. There's something else we found in Mr. Asugi's cabin. A remnant of something that couldn't possibly have been there if what Miss Pavlova told us was true.
What?
So Sato-san had noticed it too, then.
Sasasasu?
This is studio. Putting this message on the floor aside, there's something else that gives the truth away. A piece of evidence that proves this was no accident. In other words...
Well... I mean... Ship's log. Maybe the ship's log? Because something happened? Because he didn't say nothing to report. So...
That seems very tenuous.
Yeah.
Something else that gives the truth away. And if he's evidence
He was just walking my snake for 9 hours.
Another piece of evidence that proves this was no accident. In other words... No obvious external injuries or facial poison.
So basically, we're saying it was intentional. Somebody intentionally killed him. What proves that somebody intentionally killed him? I mean, I could just say the message again, because it's like... somebody
We already presented
deliberately...
that.
Yeah, that's... Maybe?
Okay. hang on.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He couldn't have
But,
written
like,
anything. He
that
was already
seems
dead.
weird.
There's something else we found in his cabin, which is there because which can't be there if it's an accident. It's there if it's
This
intentional.
is putting this message aside.
Yeah, putting this message aside. There's something else we found there that proves. Like, I don't think this does it.
No.
We didn't. Okay, we didn't find this in his room. We didn't find this in his room. Not this. Not this. We found this in his room. Not this. Not this. Or actually, maybe we did, but like, I don't think these are relevant. There was this, but like,
Yeah.
I don't think that's it. I think it has to be his diary for some reason, but I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Any whistling sound.
Keep hitting my mic.
I'll go for it. I'm not.
Wait, where did we find the slip?
This
Well,
slip
it
was
was
on
on
the
the
wardrobe door.
Yeah.
It was
So
still
it
the
could,
wardrobe.
it could be
okay.
this, but I don't see how this has anything to do with it.
Yeah, I don't
Because
know.
Kazuma put it there.
Yeah.
The only other thing we found in his room was the diary.
Really that?
Nope.
No.
But, like, we didn't find anything else in there.
I think.
The absence of something you would expect to find at the scene of an accident, or the presence of something you wouldn't.
Yeah. Okay.
So what should be there?
Something else that gives the truth.
I
here.
mean,
Another piece of evidence that proves this was no accident.
Or
it
should
was. I mean, to me that means the wardrobe in Russia. But like, I don't know what we present to prove that.
It literally says putting the message aside. If that is the message, that's
Okay.
going to be complete horseshit.
Yeah. Okay.
We again, like, they're saying like, oh, maybe it's something that wasn't there, but like, no, the other dialogue is like, we found this in his cabin. Like, is it somehow the mark? I don't see how the mark would prove that it's not an accident. That's the only other thing we found in there other than the paper slip.
It couldn't have anything to do with a tiara, could it?
We don't even have that in evidence, do we? I mean, it's in the picture, but that's
No.
dumb.
Yeah, I'm out of ideas.
Oh boy. Trial and error.
Ace Attorney memento.
Yeah, or Ace Attorney moment.
There's a clear contradiction between the facts and Miss Pavlova's story. The evidence is right there in Kazuma's cabin, it's undeniable. Putting this message on the floor aside, there's something else that gives the truth away. I still feel like we shouldn't be putting the message aside. It's more important that, okay, somebody put it there. Like, that's where if I was Naruhodo, that would be
Yeah.
my thing. It's like, who did write it? Why are we talking about something else?
Oh, I think I know.
Do we present the...
Because they found the. Wait, no.
I wish we had, like,
That would-
the ink...
That would be, yeah.
Because, like, the ink, the spilled ink, maybe?
Should we look it up?
Oh my
feel like-
god! It's the...
What?
There's only half of the bell here. She took the other half.
Oh yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Oh.
Right. Okay.
This
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
piece of broken glass next to the mark on the floor, which was so obvious.
I mean, it's obvious to me now, but
Yeah.
that was the glass bell the kid had around his neck. We already know all about that.
It looks so
It was
flat.
broken in
though,
half, and the victim tripped over the cat and fell.
because he stepped on it, duh.
So we already have a satisfactory explanation. Where's the flaw in that logic?
Unfortunately, there's a very big flaw. A fatal flaw.
What?
If that's what really happened, how did one half of the bell end up back here in this cabin?
Yes, remember that we found the other half of the glass bell in that waste paper basket. Would you care to explain that, Miss Pavlova?
Oh no. Both of these pieces of evidence clearly point to the same conclusion. When Mr. Asugi died last night in this cabin, was someone else in that room. That same person deliberately arranged a scene to disguise the truth, in order to cover up his or her own guilt. Ah! I've lost all passion for the screams.
Yes, there was someone else present in Mr. Asugi's...
You are wasting time! Someone else was there! Da, of course, we know this!
What are you talking about?
Bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. There was no way in or out.
Oh, yes.
And only other person in cabin when the young student died was you.
Now I get why his face is striped. It's the snake.
Uh,
It's true, I was in the cabin when it happened.
You were shut inside the cabin wardrobe, to be precise about the details.
I don't know Russian! There's no way I could have left that message.
Not would have. There's no way you could have left that message, to be precise about the details.
Do you mind?
Forgive me, my dear fellow.
As I was saying, I think I said it the correct way because I assumed.
Yeah.
The person in question wrote the word wardrobe in Russian on the floor, in an attempt to incriminate me for the crime, even though I had been asleep in there the entire time.
And then the same person picked up the broken glass bell that had fallen to the floor, for fear of it becoming evidence that would show how Mr. Asugi really died.
well, why wouldn't this person have taken all the pieces of the bell away?
Because they were Russian.
Leaving half behind was always going to raise questions.
Yes, well,
It was past 1 o'clock in the early hours of the morning. The cabin would have been quite dark. The single small lamp suspended from the ceiling would barely have cast any light onto the floor there. Little wonder then that the culprit failed to notice a fragment of the tiny item.
who else has picked me? Won't you? Seaman Stroganov.
Nina is woman of sea. She is daughter of strong sailor. 2 years ago, they noticed her dancing skills and she went away to join ballet company. But before, she was dancer on this ship, a member of ship's band. You do not accuse ship's angel of being criminal.
Ah, so that's it.
You say that when young student died, Nina was there in his cabin. But that is not possible. I give my tooth. Well, this is almost interesting. Why would you give your tooth, pray? How can you be so sure? You are a great detective, you should know. Look truth in eyes. Cabin bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. Nobody could go into cabin, not Nina, not anyone. Or you want to tell me that killer can walk through locked doors? Niet, it's impossible.
He's right.
But wait, I've read about these in detective stories. People often tie thread around door latches so they can open and close them from the outside.
Thread? Are you stupid? These bulkheads are not barn doors. Certainly not. These are watertight doors, as one would expect to find on any modern steamship. Constructed of heavy steel with not a gap in sight, no threads or needles or magnets could have been used.
No, of course not. I thought so too. But Mr. Naruhodo suggested it earlier, so...
Susato-san, how could you shift it onto me like that? Traitor.
God.
Seaman Stroganoff has a valid point. The cabin door couldn't have been bolted shut from the outside.
Not necessarily. But I put it to you that I could bolt this cabin door without laying a finger on it. And in this very cabin, we can see traces of the method I have in mind having been used before.
I don't believe it.
Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I believe you know what I mean, don't you?
Way to shut the bolt of the cabin door from the outside. One way does spring to mind, yes.
Do you really know what Mr. Shums means, Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes. So should you. Because we've seen it happen.
Indeed we have. So, would you care to do the honors, Mr. Naruhodo? Point out the telling signs of the method that was used to slide the cabin door bolt across from the outside.
Yes!
Look at the bookcase there. You got all the books and things on it have toppled over.
That must have happened when the ship made its emergency stop before.
Yes, that's right. It's a very powerful vessel, after all.
Right.
When the engines are thrown into reverse, a violent jolt goes across the entire ship.
And one did hit the emergency.
Any small objects that aren't fastened down are bound to fall over.
I believe, yes, it's what's known as the force of inertia acting on the object.
Then nothing Susato-san doesn't know? Or that isn't in a book, at least. Whatever it's called, the same force that pushed over those books in the bookcase also made something else in this cabin move. Bolt on the cabin door.
Ah!
Very obvious just after the emergency stop that the ship made earlier. We had come into this cabin not long before, and we hadn't bolted the door. Then...
That was, Hosanaga.
Oh, if there's anybody in there, shout if you need assistance.
Oh, that sounds like... bitch.
Inspector Hosonaga.
What I said.
Oh yes! That's it! When the ship stopped suddenly, the boat flew across and knocked the door.
Yes, it's made of metal, but it's small and light enough to be moved by the ship's sudden change of speed. Or the force of inertia, if you want to call it that.
Are you trying to say that last night, after Mr. Asogi was killed, Sasbuya made another emergency stop?
I woke up this morning and looked around the cabin. I thought it looked a little odd. All the books on the shelves had toppled over, and all the ornaments. It's almost as if someone had run their hand across the shelves and deliberately knocked everything over.
Oh yes, I remember that. And I stood them all up again, didn't I?
When we came into this cabin, we were surprised to see the same thing in here. All the books and everything had toppled over. It's like in Mr. Asuki's cabin.
Oh my!
Do you have anything to say about this, Miss Pavlova?
Are you out of your mind? You say Burya made emergency stop?
Seem a little far-fetched. How could that possibly have happened? Unless you're saying that the culprit is actually someone from the engine room?
Oh, it's
Now
simple
we
enough.
present the logbook.
Are you forgetting the button in the passageway outside, used to trigger the emergency alarm?
Oh yes, of course. There was a notice, wasn't there, telling you only to press the button in times of emergency.
On dark nights when the fog is dense, the captain cannot afford to rely on the eyes of his lookout alone. Hence the placement of a number of buttons around the vessel to allow any crewman to raise the alarm. The sort of button one is almost compelled to press to satisfy one's curiosity. Wait, it was you? When the button is pressed, two things happen in the interests of safety. The emergency alarm bell rings and the vessel comes to a complete stop. As indeed it did a little earlier today. Is that why everyone has headaches? Because the alarm went off in their sleep? I feel like that would just wake them up.
Mr.
Yeah, I don't
Shums, surely it wasn't you who...
As I always say, a button has but one purpose in life. To be pressed, whatever the occasion.
He sounds almost proud of himself.
How dare you mess with ship? I report you to Captain. You are in so much trouble now.
Now, I'm sure that can all wait until later. Let us not overlook the fact that we have now learned a valuable lesson. When the vessel makes an emergency stop, the bolts on the cabin doors slide closed. So, what we must now consider...
Yes, it all comes down to one thing now. Last night, after what happened to Mr. Asogi, did this ship make an emergency stop, or did it not?
You are idiots! Buria is a huge ship with many passengers. If we make emergency stop even in middle of night, there will be chaos everywhere.
What's your thoughts, Mr. Naruhodo?
Well... Just thinking about that well. It's certainly possible that some kind of emergency happened last night. I have evidence to support that idea.
Really? What evidence, Mr. Naruhodo?
Fascinating! Do show us, my good man.
Log.
What evidence promotes the theory that some emergency gripped this vessel last night?
Oh.
The square hole.
That's right.
Seaman
That's
Stroganoff. It's your duty to patrol the first-class area of the ship, isn't that right?
Ah, that is correct. Why?
The ship's log here. This will be where you record the details of your duties.
What are you doing with that? That is mine!
Ah, you rather carelessly left it atop the little makeshift bureau in the passageway out there. But as responsible passengers, we took it into our care with a mind to return it to you later.
I left it there on purpose! That is where I put it always!
The point is, looking what you usually record, it's clear that under normal circumstances you write the phrase "nothing to report" every 30 minutes. 2 o'clock last night until first light this morning, nothing was recorded at all.
Nothing recorded in the log.
That is... Nah, because nothing happened.
If nothing happened, you would normally write "nothing to report," wouldn't you?
Indeed so, which tells us that shortly after 2 AM, something happened here aboard the SS Buria. Something sufficiently significant to make you forget to fill in the ship's log, in fact.
Are you suggesting that the ship really did make an emergency stop in the middle of the night?
Stop talking rubbish!
If I'm perfectly honest, I find that a little hard to believe myself.
Oh, why?
Well, because something as major as an emergency stop really had happened. Surely all of us would have noticed.
That's very true. Thanks to the emergency stop we experienced earlier, we all know what it feels like now. The ship lurched so violently, and the alarm bell was so loud. I can't imagine that anybody would sleep through that, even if it happened in the dead of night.
Well, no, that's a good point. Oh shit.
What of the throbbing?
Sorry, what do you mean?
Your head, man. The throbbing of your head since this morning. We have all suffered with it.
Ah,
Oh, yes. I have had a headache, you're right. In fact, I haven't been feeling myself since I woke up today.
I haven't.
Nor have I.
feeling was-
my head has been feeling heavy ever since dawn.
Yes, you've all been afflicted, haven't you? Just as I suspected.
Right. My head's been throbbing today too. Since eating dinner yesterday evening, everything has felt sort of hazy. Oh, they were drugged. I don't remember anything that happened after I climbed back inside the wardrobe. The first thing I noticed this morning was a throbbing pain in my head. It had already been dragged out of the wardrobe. And those handcuffs put on me by that point. Why didn't I wake up when all of that was happening to me?
Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, you boarded this vessel as a stowaway, didn't you?
Oh, well, yes. Sorry.
The stowaway class of accommodation doesn't usually include meals. What did you survive on?
Ah, well, Kazuma looked after me. always happy to share his meals.
So you enjoyed some of the whole roast chicken dish that was served yesterday evening, I take it?
Yes, in fact, I had all of that. Kazuma wasn't fond of chicken.
Oh really? So the victim
He
didn't
was
eat any of the
killed 'cause
chicken
he
at
was
all?
awake. That's right. He didn't touch it. Is that relevant?
My dear fellow, does that not strike you?
Oh, Mr. Sholmes, do you mean to say that there was something wrong with the chicken?
I do.
Oh, really? Is that really true?
The meal prepared for the passengers last night had been tampered with. Tampered with by the addition of a soporific, designed to induce a very deep slumber in those who consumed it.
Sleeping drug?
Do you mean... Whoever did this laced every meal with a sleeping drug so no one will notice the ship's emergency stop?
Mr. Naruhodo, of course that's not what Mr. Sholmes means. What a far-fetched idea.
Okay, and last night was also when Pavlova boarded the ship. So I think Stroganov did that to... And then emergency stopped in Shanghai or wherever to sneak her onto the ship. But Cosmo was a witness.
It's all coming together.
Okay. Precisely. Lacing every meal of every passenger on board with a soporific drug would certainly be impossible. Unless, that is, every single member of the crew was a conspirator.
What?
Mr. Sholmes!
Well, seaman?
Eh?
I'm sorry to say that any more deception in this matter will get you nowhere. If you refuse to talk, there would have to be an inquiry made through the shipping company, of course. And were that to happen, every member of the crew and the captain himself would be hauled over the coals. For aiding and abetting a renegade.
Please, no more. I will tell everything. I cannot make problems like this for everyone anymore.
These crewmen are your former comrades, I believe.
Yes. So when I decided to run away, I asked them to help me.
We all agreed to help. Everyone together. She threw away everything, her fame in the ballet, Mother Russia. We wanted to help our angel.
Believe it.
You are right. We put sleeping drug in chicken last night.
Yes, I remember now. I did notice chewing on a lump of something strange and bitter at one point.
We could not make all drug, how you say, dissolve.
Talk about heavy seasoning.
At midnight, in waters near Shanghai, we brought our angel on board. She was helped by comrade on shore with small fishing boat.
While all the passengers of the SS Buria slept soundly, thanks to the almost magical effects of the slumber-inducing potion that their evening meals had contained.
So if that's what happened, the only people awake on the ship last night were the crew, people who disliked chicken, and newly boarded passenger, Miss Pavlova. That means it would have been possible for you. Could have used the emergency stop trick to lock Kazuma's cabin door.
How does that make sense? Surely every cabin door would have ended up locked in that case, and there would have been complete chaos.
Oh, I wouldn't
Bruh.
say so. Everyone was asleep in their rooms. Their
What?
door was already locked.
Ah, of course. It's like us, all the other passengers would have eaten their evening meal of chicken in their cabins. After which they would have been overwhelmed by tiredness because of the sleeping drug.
Quite. And accordingly, all passengers were already in their cabins for the night.
Yes.
The overwhelming majority of passengers would habitually sleep with their cabin doors bolted anyway, and so not one of them would have found it remarkable to find their door locked in the morning. In summary, in order to fasten the bolt of a single cabin door on the ship, the culprit brought the entire vessel to an emergency stop in the early hours of the morning.
You have talked long time and said many things. What is point?
The point is what I had said earlier. There was somebody else present on the scene when the victim lost his life last night. Someone who left a message in Russian on the floor in an attempt to incriminate another. Someone who tried desperately to hide the broken fragments of glass that would reveal the culprit's identity. And someone who abused the ship's emergency stop procedure in order to lock a door. All told, a busy night.
But... I don't know about any of this. I'm just a little girl.
You like to speak with your long English words and explain your clever ideas. But I am sailor, and sailors don't listen to long, boring stories. We don't believe. Sailors like me, we trust only what we can see with our eyes.
A laudable trait.
What?
I'm quite of the same disposition, my good man. Observation to me is everything. Mr. Naruhodo?
Oh, yes?
Did you hear it? That accusatory cry of guilt on the wind.
What
No.
accusatory cry of guilt?
Sorry, you've lost me.
Proof of involvement, man. But you can't hear such a call with your ears. No. You must hear it with your eyes, for observation is the basis of all deduction.
What are you talking about?
I believe the time has come for one final logic and reasoning spectacular to expose the truth. So, Mr. Naruhodo, your assistance, if you please.
With what exactly, Mr. Sholmes?
With observation, my dear fellow, just as I said, of these two prevaricators.
Observation?
If you remember, Mr. Naruhodo, we know that somebody tried to fabricate evidence, don't we? By tampering with the scene of Mr. Asogi's death. What we are looking for is some trace of evidence that one of these two was there when it happened.
Precisely. You are delightfully quick to grasp my meaning.
Alright, I'll see what I can do. We're looking for a trace of evidence that shows someone else was there last night when Kazuma died. Chunky arms.
There we go.
Oh, oh. So convenient that he never turned his back on us. Seaman Stroganov. You seem to have quite a large purple stain on the back of your white uniform there.
Eh? Yes, I don't know where the dirt comes from.
So nothing in particular comes to mind about the stain?
What are you trying to say?
It would appear that the significance of this stain has escaped your attention, Seaman. Allow us to make it plain.
There's a very large purple stain on the back of Seaman Stroganov's uniform.
And I think what made it is clear.
Indeed it is. So, Mr. Naruhodo, present the evidence that proves it.
My pleasure. Right then, the evidence that proves what the stain on the back of Seaman Stroganov's uniform really is.
Sure. There we go. Yeah. That was,
Yes! It's this photograph, and the ink it shows. That's what caused the stain on your uniform.
Ink? A rather unusual colour of ink. Purple. Ah! Ah, the penny drops. At last. Now you see the significance.
The Russian one on the floor next to the victim's body was written in purple ink. The stain on the back of your uniform is ink of the exactly same color. Exactly the same color.
If the ink had been dry, it couldn't possibly have stained your uniform in that way, which means you must have been present in the cabin in the moments immediately after the ink was spilt.
All right, yes. It was me, I did it. Everything. I arranged everything in that student's cabin to make it look like Wardrobe Man did it. Then I pressed button to make Buria do emergency stop and both cabin doors shut. I did everything so no one would suspect our angel.
Beef, please.
Don't worry, Angel. Let me do talking. It was after 1 in the morning. I was on duty patrolling passageway. Then our angel came to me. She was white like sheet.
Beef, please, you must help me.
I went with her. The door to cabin number 1 was open. When I looked inside, I saw student boy on floor. What happened here?
Please, don't tell anyone. My little one, my little furry friend.
Everything that happened in cabin is
Serena.
like Angel told you. No.
Kitten escaped to the ventilator into Mr. Asugi's cabin. Then he tripped over it and broke his neck when he fell to the floor.
Yes, that is right.
So after the incident when the cat ran away, Miss Pavlova had then visited the cabin next to hers.
Only to find its occupant lying lifeless on the floor.
She said she was worried when she heard sound of something falling on floor. That's when she went to look. No, Angel? The door was not locked, so she opened to look and you already know what happened after.
It's just one thing. If you wouldn't
One more
mind,
thing.
What?
when you went to Mr. Asogi's cabin, Miss Pavlova, was he already dead?
I
already told you! When Nina opened door of student's cabin then looked...
I was asking Miss Pavlova.
Well, Miss Pavlova?
Oh,
Yes, it is right. I saw him. It was dark, and he was wearing black, but he was on the floor, not moving. I was scared.
I understand. And I believe you.
So is that finally it now? If we discover the real truth about Kazuma's death at last?
Ah! Something very nearly slipped my mind.
Oh, Mr. Sholmes.
This photograph... Yes, I took this myself, you know. The cause of death was a broken neck. Therefore, the victim died instantly. And the unfortunate incident that precipitated these events? A kitten, on which the victim stumbled. However, if those are the facts, there is one particular area in this photograph that seems to be somewhat unnatural.
What do you mean unnatural?
What's your thoughts on the matter, Mr. Naruhodo?
If you know, why don't you just fucking say it? Oh, well... Kazuma tripped and fell, and by some terrible stroke of bad luck broke his neck. Which part of this photograph print seems unnatural? This word in Russian clearly wasn't written by Kazuma. If you're looking for something unnatural, that's the obvious point.
Very true. It is certainly peculiar, but it's not what I meant by unnatural, I'm afraid. That particularly crass detail was orchestrated by the culprit. I mean to identify another point. Oh, I see. I was trying to point at his finger. Imagine, if you will, you losing your footing yourself. In my opinion, if you landed as the victim appears to have done here, it would be most unnatural. I'm sure you'll reach the same conclusion. How thoughtful you are, Mr. Sholmes. Thank you for your gentle guidance. Kazuma tripped and fell.
His fist?
I guess, yeah.
Yes!
He'll
Why
probably
he
have his
punched
hands
it?
outstretched to...
Yeah.
Alright, if it really fell due to an unfortunate accident, his fist just doesn't seem quite right.
The exact same thought occurred to me. In a fall, one's instinct is to open the palms flat. Yet here we see the victim with his left hand tightly balled into a fist. Almost, you might say. As though
A
he were
punch.
gripping something.
But
What do you mean?
Simply that I took the liberty of investigating the victim's fist a short while ago.
You did?
And what, pray, do you imagine I found there, my dear fellow? Mr. Sholmes, show us, please! Why, of course, my dear madam. Would I keep you in suspense? This is what I found. Oh, a crescent moon with a little gemstone in the middle?
Yes, you're right. Crescent moon. It's very pretty. What does it tell us?
It
Victim
tells
was
us
Sailor
nothing.
Moon. I'm not so sure. That crescent moon looks...
No, not part of this.
I think it was in the newspaper, maybe.
Nope.
Maybe the others. There's another
I mean, I
page.
know she's wearing them. We do know she's wearing them, but
Oh, it's one of the earrings? Okay.
yeah.
It looks familiar somehow. I'm sure I've seen it somewhere before.
Observation, Mr. Naruhodo. That is the key.
What?
The truth is now tantalizingly close.
How did that crescent moon come to be in Kazuma's clenched fist?
This is the final clue, the last piece of the puzzle. Ask yourself, what does this little crescent moon mean? What significance has it? And observe. Find the answer with your own eyes.
It's
Yeah.
Ah.
There.
I'm probably
Then you
supposed to
have to-
present the actual
yeah.
one.
yeah.
Let me...
Was that?
No, there is a right
Oh.
here option.
Okay.
It just wasn't showing up for some reason.
Damn.
Miss Pavlova, I noticed that on your ear. Even though you have a metal earring, the decorative part of it seems to be missing. The little link holding it on must have broken, I suppose.
Eh? What?
Looking at your other ear, I noticed a crescent moon.
I don't believe it.
Now, the missing crescent moon was found in the victim's clenched fist. Clearly, there is only one logical conclusion.
It was a thief.
Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes. Miss Pavlova, Mr. Asugi must have grasped that crescent moon and pulled it from your ear. Perhaps just moments before he fell to the floor. In other words, last night in Mr. Asugi's cabin, you witnessed the moment where the victim fell with your own eyes. In fact, you were quite literally at arm's length from him. And the question is, why did Mr. Asugi do that? Did he pull your earring from your ear and hold it in his clenched fist during his final moments? Oh no.
Angel?
No one can protect you now. Please, Miss Pavlova, tell us the truth. Last night. What did you do to Kazuma?